Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hi, and welcome back to Joe on Joe. I'm your host, Joe Slepsky, and we are back for part 2 of our fantastic interview with the writer of the current G.I. Joe ongoing series from IDW Comics, Aubrey Sitterson. Aubrey!
Oh, yeah. What's happening, man?
Now, if you didn't...
I do my own crowd noises.
Oh,
you like that?
You get crowd noises. If you didn't tune into the first part, make sure you go back to the pod and listen to last week's episode.
Even if you did tune in, listen again.
Listen again. Give me double the downloads. And if you're so inclined, go to iTunes and give me a rating. That really helps. It gets the profile of the show through the roof. You can find me on social media at Joe on Joe Pod. I'm on Instagram. I tweet out the G.I. Joe Impel trading cards, and Twitter and Facebook. And you can also send me an email at joeandjoepod@gmail.com. And you can find Aubrey on Twitter and Facebook at Aubrey Sitterson.
Spelled like it sounds.
Spelled like it sounds.
ABREYSITTERSON.
Yeah, now in the first part of our episode, we covered a lot about G.I. Joe and about Aubrey's history with it and writing the comics and the books. But you've got another aspect of yourself, your personality, the mosaic that is Aubrey. And that involves like wrestling.
I'm a big wrestling fan.
Yeah, you've got a wrestling podcast, right?
Yeah, I've got a wrestling podcast. I worked at WWE.com for a couple of years, and I worked doing marketing for the WWE games with THQ and 2K, like when it switched over.
Sweet.
And these days I do a wrestling podcast, and it's called Straight Shoot, and it's every Thursday. And we've been through a few different iterations and trying to, figure out what the audience likes. And for a while, we were like a post-Raw show, so we go live immediately after Raw with guests, and people would dial in remotely, and we would use YouTube live streaming. And
Fun.
So it would be a video product, right? On YouTube initially, and it started off with us just talking about Raw, and then we switched to a format where we'd be on Thursdays and we would talk about not just WWE but other promotions as well, Japanese promotions, indie promotions, other stuff. And more recently, with like the influx of WWE programming, which I don't know if you're a wrestling fan, you are most likely feeling like I am, which is overwhelmed by how much content there is.
There's a lot of wrestling out
There's
there.
3 hours of Raw. There's 2 hours of SmackDown. There's an hour of NXT. There are 2
Is
pay-per-views
Raw 3 nights a week now?
Raw's only 1 night a week.
But it's
3
it's a
hours
3-hour
long.
show?
It's a 3-hour show.
Whoa.
Yeah, 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, 1 hour of NXT, and then 2 pay-per-views. Most months, there are 2 pay-per-views every month, too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a ton. So we're only covering WWE these days because that's what most people watch. I watch other wrestling, too, but that's what we cover on the show. It's every Thursday night. Different guests dial in. Sometimes,
And do you have a co-host on the show?
Nope, it's just me.
Just you? Sweet.
Yeah, and folks will dial in. So anybody who's a wrestling fan who's worth talking to.
Yeah.
So that that means writers about wrestling. That means former WWE creative people. That means indie wrestlers. My pal Cody Rhodes, who's wandering around here somewhere. He's been on the show before.
Any relation to Dusty? Are you serious? You're the son of a plumber? Come here. I want to shake your hand.
I love the world in which he would lie to you about that.
For real? Hey, man, nice to meet you. Really nice to meet you. I really wish my friend Pablo was here. Pablo's been a guest on Joe and Joe. He's a huge wrestling guy. He's tied up with Wildcat Wrestling out of New Orleans.
Oh, cool.
And when your dad died, it was huge. Like Pablo was tore up, man. So my condolences, and he was admirable. He was great. All right, we're gonna have you on another episode. We'll get Sergeant Slaughter on the show. That's really cool, man.
Yeah, so all kinds of guests, comedians, musicians, actors, writers about comics, or comic book writers. Dennis Hopeless has been on. Jason Aaron has been on.
Jason Aaron.
Ryan Ferrier has been on.
Is Jason Aaron as cool as his books are?
Yeah, he's a great dude. I brought Jason Aaron on for Ghost Rider at Marvel. In my Marvel days.
That was when he made him Agent of Heaven, right?
Yeah, so that was carried over from the Daniel Way run.
Oh, Daniel did that. Okay.
Yeah, that was something established in Daniel Way, and so then Jason picked it up with Roland Boshi on art. Awesome Marco Djurjevic covers. I'm selling a comic from like a decade ago.
That was a great run.
It was great, and it was very like grindhousey, like exploitation cinema stuff. So Jason's great. Jason's fun to talk wrestling about too, because that guy only started watching wrestling again recently when his young son got into it, and so he went like 2 decades never watching any wrestling. So like he missed like the entire careers of like the Undertaker. Like he just missed it. He's just never seen any Undertaker matches.
Really?
Or Shawn Michaels. Like one time we were just chitting about something. I was like, oh yeah, like Shawn Michaels. He's like, oh, I don't really know anything about that guy. And he knows an immense amount about stuff, from before he dropped out. But it's kind of a funny thing. But yeah, so
and you can find that on iTunes. That's Straight Shoot. You can find that on iTunes and everywhere you find
Stitcher,
podcasts, right?
Google Play, everywhere. Yeah, or you can find it on YouTube. You can search for Straight Shoot, or just go to AubreySitterson.com.
Yeah. You should check out his website. That's really on point. I need to talk to your website guy because my website's terrible.
You're talking to him right now.
Okay, because if you notice, I have a website. I never promote it on the show because it's terrible.
You were talking to my website guy.
You also briefly mentioned you do another podcast.
I do another podcast.
It's called Scald.
Scald. Skald.
And describe this one because this is awesome.
So a Scald is basically a Scandinavian bard. Right, and so if you're like a Dungeons and Dragons or like Pathfinder fan, like this already, because it would be like that's like the more martial type of bard that you might play in one of these games. But
the tough guy storyteller.
Like he'll play the guitar, but he'll also
he'll hit you with it.
He'll El Kabong you with it too.
Oh, I was just gonna
references.
say El Kabong. Yes.
Anyway, I'm very good at this, Joe. You need to brace yourself. You weren't ready. So Scald. A Scald would travel around and like would go to like the courts of jarls and kings and stuff and would tell these like epic stories of the gods and heroes and things like that. And Scald, the podcast, is kind of my effort to recapture and kind of recontextualize oral storytelling. And so every single week, and I've done this for a year and a half now, I think episode 87, 88 just went up. A new one every single week for 88 weeks in a row.
And it's you telling...
I write a story, and then I read it in one take.
Whoa.
That's it. That's
great.
That's the bit, and it's serialized.
So it's the same story continuing?
Yep. And it's very much influenced by like Robert E. Howard Conan and Michael Moorcock Elric.
Awesome.
Are kind of like the central influences, but also like everything else. Like so, I just got like one of the most recently concluded cycle. There was a lot of kung fu in it, just because I felt like it.
Why not?
And that's kind of the great thing about it is it's just whatever I want it to be.
What better medium to translate kung fu through than a podcast?
I think I found a way to make it work, man. I hope people will check it out. I know you're being disingenuous with me right now, which I don't appreciate, but I do hope people will check it out. It
sounds great.
Yeah, it's a cool thing. It's very unique. There's not anything else like it. There are a lot of like radio serials on like podcast platforms and stuff, and that's not what this is. There's no funny voices, there's no sound effects, there's no multiple people, there's no music cues. It's just me and my voice telling these stories, and they're all written. Each chapter is written to be read. Also,
cool.
It's not. I write it differently than I would just like a short story.
Do you then put the stories available online to read through?
I do. Yeah. So after I get like 16 of them done, I then release them as ebooks on Amazon.
Very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
So
Very
people
cool.
can pick them up there if they prefer. It's meant to be heard, but if you prefer to read it, which I know some people do, it's available there as well.
Do you lump them together and sell them as audiobooks?
No, I haven't done that yet because I really just want to push people towards the podcast.
Yeah.
Because I want them to kind of fall down the rabbit hole. Also, here's the thing. I get better as I go along.
Yeah.
So right now I'm in the process of taking all the older episodes and I'm releasing one new episode on YouTube per day. So I'm porting it over there too, just so I can also capture that audience. And I've gotten way better at it.
I think every podcaster.
Yeah, but it's kind of So I tell people they should. Everybody should check it out, but they should start with the most recent episode because it's serialized. But I tell people you don't. If you decide you want to get into Batman, you don't go to Detective Comics from
we had
1940s.
someone come in, literally.
That's not a thing you do.
So funny you say that. Literally last week, someone came in saying, "I want to get into X-Men. I want to start at X-Men #1," and my face dropped, and I was like, "You don't know what you're asking.
Like, don't even start at X-Men 1 of the current run.
Yeah, I was like,
you now.
You really want to start?" And he was serious. He's like, "I really want to start at the beginning." I'm like, "That's a mistake, but okay. Here's how you do it."
I tell people, start with the most recent episode, and then once it grabs you, which I think it will, because it's really good, and I've gotten much better at telling the stories. I think then you go back,
work your way backwards.
Yeah, go back and start at the beginning and kind of catch up and see where things came from.
Awesome. Well, listen, today we're going to take over with Captives of Cobra Part 2.
Yeah.
So where we left our heroes. Well, you know what? We're going to talk about where we left them once the show starts. So, Aubrey, you ready to get going?
I am more than ready.
Let's do this.
Fight for freedom. I'm sorry, I just have to do it.
No,
Right?
you have to. You have
Joe
to sing
is
the song. You have to
there.
sing the song.
Do your version? Does your DVD? So I've been watching MP4s that IDW has been sending me.
Okay. So IDW pirated them.
No, they have it. Like they got it like off of like Hasbro's FTP or
I
whatever
blame
to
Joel.
share with me.
Okay.
I've been watching those, and mine do not have the knowing is half the battle.
Well, you know what? So those
On any of them. Did those not start until
no,
later in the
well,
run?
they were very. There's actually not that many of them, and they were on the DVDs. They're always they're completely separate file. So let's say I don't know off the top of my head, but let's say there were 12 of them made. They would just slot them in and rotate them at the end of every episode.
Gotcha.
So you got a lot of repetition on them, and on
see,
the
I didn't remember
DVD
that.
sets, they're completely separate files.
That's smart. I
Yeah,
guess.
we haven't actually dug into him on the podcast yet because I'm trying to figure out a fun way to do it because they're really short too.
Out of control and leaves behind a formation of strange crystals. A team of GI
We're getting our hot recap
Yeah,
from last time.
very hot recap. So in case,
Explosions.
in case
giant
you-
rocks
in case
falling.
you're just tuning in for the first time, what's happened is there was an explosion at a Cobra lab which created these glowing crystals which were growing uncontrollably, and the crystals were very explosive, kind of like the explosive in Die Hard with a Vengeance, and the explosion knocked a rock loose.
I love that reference. I know exactly. That's a stupid thing to bring up, Joe. But I love that reference because I remember that really vividly. Them in the police station.
Yeah, it throws
and
it and the chair blows
yeah.
up. Yeah,
I love.
yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Charlie.
Look at this. Stealing poor Kevin. What was his name?
Well, so Cobra gets the plan to. Cobra's like, hey, who would you never want to fight? You never want to fight your family. Obviously, they don't know everybody's family. I'm just kidding. So they're like, you would never want to fight your family. So Cobra finally gets the idea to steal the Joe's identities, kidnap their family members, and then use those family members against the Joes.
It's devious.
It's totally devious. And so now here we're at. There's their own families they're blocking the road,
And they're
in
all
front
in
of the
like
Joes.
Cobra, like beekeeper outfits.
Total beekeeper
with
outfits.
laser guns.
Total beekeeper
trained
outfits.
on them. And meanwhile, there's a
Cobra's
battle
stolen
airship.
like a helicarrier. They're in like a Shield helicarrier, which is not seen very often. Usually they're in that giant snake plane. And you've got like it's like Scarlett's father and brothers, and it's Shipwreck's nephew,
Spirit's dad, I think.
Yeah, Barbecue's dad, Spirit's dad, Thunder. They're giving Thunder some love on this episode, which he rarely does. See that?
Thunder's voice is the worst.
Thunder's
Hey, everybody. Mama, Daddy. Hey, look. Well, I think he was the one from Louisville.
Who is this guy?
random no-name Cobra scientist.
Are you a big Zama and Tomax fan?
I love Tomax and Zavon.
Yeah?
Yeah. I love them. I can never tell them apart, though.
I
so I
can't-
don't know if
I
that
was never,
belies
like-
how much I truly
I
love
don't
them.
dislike them, but another, like, while I've been writing G.I. Joe, it's always been, I was telling you before we started that I was really shocked and delighted by how many British G.I. Joe fans there are.
Mm-hmm.
That was a big surprise for me. Also, something that surprised me is how much people love Tomax.
Yeah,
and Zama.
Crimson Twins are great.
They love, people are nuts for them.
They were a huge part of the show.
Yeah.
Like, not so, I mean, Hama used them in the comics, but not a ton.
They were a big part of
Like,
that. They've been a big part of the IDW
anime.
run.
Yeah, and
But one of them's
unfortunately,
dead.
one of them's dead.
One of them's dead, so I don't know.
Well, as much as I loved what they did with them, because it was part of the Chuckle
It was
stuff
neat.
and the Cobra
It was
stuff,
neat.
and it was great.
But I kind of don't want to use just Tomax by himself.
Right,
That
he's
doesn't
now
really
no longer
excite me.
special.
Yeah.
That's the problem with it. Because the one they had him captive in the casino, and he was like he was almost
We'll just make a
ready-
robot one.
Yeah,
It'll be fine. We'll
See?
figure it out.
Oh my God, make a
Yeah,
battle
we'll get
android,
there.
battle android Tomax, a new version of the battle android.
They did
Tomax.
bats too in the in the IDW run. What's something neat about the IDW run was they used a lot of these classic cartoon storylines and kind of like adulted them up, and kind of reworked them. We're going in a different direction with our stuff. Like it's kind of the opposite, right? Like we're trying to approximate like the tone and the excitement and the kind of aspirational nature of the show with kind of like different, like maybe a little bit more complex storylines.
Yeah, and the IDW
different
stuff
vibe.
also has you've got a foot in the real world,
Yeah.
which a lot of the Joe stuff over the years never did.
We're kind of taking that foot back, though. Honestly, I mean, because
Yeah.
now GI Joe exists in a the previous IDW run, GI Joe existed in our world,
Right.
with like serious like geopolitical conflicts and
Yes,
stuff.
the one directly before yours. That
Now,
was really
well, yeah, especially that
Yeah.
one, but even the other stuff too. Like there would be some sci-fi type stuff, but it was serious. And people died, and there were really heavy stakes. Now GI Joe exists in a world with giant transformers and tiny little astronauts from different dimensions and space knights and Mask. And I don't have a clever thing
We
for Mask.
haven't talked about Mask yet. Real quick.
Yeah.
So the Joes are using smoke canisters. They're going to try to gas them out, except
They've got the beekeeper suits on.
I want to wonder,
Did nobody
no one
notice
notice
that?
that they're in giant...
You got to try. They're family. You don't want to shoot them, right? You don't want to give up.
So there's a standard Joe pursuit going on. Let's talk about Mask. I love that you guys are used to doing Mask.
Yeah, I don't...
Are you going to touch on? Are you going to be able to use any of those?
No, I mean, I could if I want. I mean, Mask's got its own book, so I mean,
Well, Mask was always the hybrid between. Mask was the hybrid between GI Joe and
that's the
Transformers.
thing. Yeah, so it's kind of weird that it's also. And like, here's the thing: people are very excited about Mask. This is the first time it's been in a comic book, and it's.
Well, no, there was a DC book.
Was there a DC
Yeah.
Mask
Mhm.
book?
Yeah,
I
there was a
thought-
miniseries, and
I
then
feel
there
like
was like
IDW's marketing might be lying.
Yeah, no, there was a DC series, and there was like a 9-issue regular series.
I refuse to believe it. This is the first time Mask has ever been in a comic book, but it.
This millennium.
A lot of people are really, really passionate about it. I never really had that much of a connection to Mask. I had one Mask toy. It was like a motorcycle that changed into like an underwater motorcycle or something. Like, I don't know. It was something ridiculous because they're all like that, right? It's a car that changed into a different car. I don't know. Like, I might be able to use them if I wanted to, but G.I. Joe has got such a big roster. So there's
you're definitely not lacking for anyone fun to use.
there's a Transformer on the team already. I don't think I need to bring in other dudes.
Yeah.
Other
So on the
franchises.
show, they were able to corral their family, and Wild Bill, as he does, saves the day. He shows up and he transports them in his helicopter. However, it turns out those suits they're wearing were like hyper electrified, and they're all about to fall out.
they're zippity
how are they
zapping
not
their
gonna
way.
Die? They're about to fall out of this net.
Watch, I know what happens. I've
Okay.
seen this episode. Like this.
Well, wait.
Jesse.
And once again, as we love to point out on the show, commercial breaks in G.I. Joe are all about gravity.
Yeah, man, it's smart.
These messages.
Today's Filecard Feature is on the Iron Grenadier's Anti-Armor Specialist, codename Metalhead. His file name is Stuart A. Finley, and his primary military specialty is the anti-armor weapon system. His secondary specialty is the ordnance, and his birthplace is Annapolis, Maryland. Metalhead is a walking anti-tank weapon. He can launch high-explosive rockets and guide them to their objectives on a laser beam, without the use of trigger devices. Instead, he uses a voice-activated weapons command system made up of circuits and targeting computer modules built into various components of his blast suit. All he has to do is make visual contact with the target, let the computer read the range, plot the trajectory, wait for the green light to flash, and then yell bang to complete the firing sequence. Metalhead carries an ultra-portable multi-rocket launcher, or MRL, system strapped to a special backpack. He fires these precision-guided munitions, PGMs, by vocal command and always hits targets with devastating effect. Although he has a reputation for being undisciplined, he follows the orders of General Mayhem without question. This is not out of obedience or fear, he just knows he gets to blow everything he wants into smithereens. His quote is, "I've got my eye on you." A bullseye, that is. Now, this is the first mention that we've had here of the Iron Grenadiers. They're a later addition to the Joe line, for those of you who aren't familiar with it. And they were soldiers that were actually loyal directly to Destro. Gold was the color of the Iron Grenadiers. And Metalhead is our first foray into that world. He definitely showed up on the cartoon in the later DIC series, therefore, kind of terrible. But, Metalhead, you've got a look that really just screams something. I'm not quite sure what it screams, but he does carry like 4 or 5 missiles just directly on his person, like a satchel, which is pretty entertaining. Stuart A. Finley, first of the Iron Grenadiers, we salute you.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
most commercial breaks involve someone falling, something falling at someone, something falling on someone.
Yeah, it's a smartly plotted show, man.
Yeah.
Like I think that people kind of look down their noses at it a little bit because it's it's very 80s animation, kids animation looking, and it's frenetic in terms of the pacing, but it's also very smartly structured.
Oh, totally.
Around all the commercial beats and around the serialized nature of the show, they have a lot of masters to serve, right? They have like all these,
And they have to showcase. They have to showcase the toys.
Exactly. That's the other thing. I mean, like even beyond just the characters, you got to get that bridge builder.
Yeah, the bridge layer, man.
Bridge layer.
The
You
bridge
got
layer.
to get it in there. We got
They
to
were-
move. Christmas is coming up. We got to move some units.
I can only think that was a high price point production model for them because they use the bridge layer so much on the show in these early episodes. They must have thought like kids are going to go crazy for bridges.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a
Like
weird
kids
thing.
and bridges, they're going to go nutty for them. So as their family fell out of the helicopter, they all landed in the water. They're getting scooped up by some Crimson Guardsmen in a Cobra hydrofoil. So here's a question for you. Let's
it on
talk
me.
vehicles. What kind of vehicles are you going to be featuring in the IDW show?
So
Or IDW show, the IDW comic.
yeah, it's not been a huge part. It's not a huge part of it right now, because I want to. I mean, so first of all, we've got a Transformer on the team again, which is something I'm very, very excited about. And I hope people pick up that G.I. Joe Revolution issue and check it out and find out, who's showing up on that very last splash page. But
It's exciting.
for me, I'm really wanting to right now, like, if we need a vehicle, we'll use it.
Uh-huh.
But I'm not letting that drive the action. And it's an ensemble cast. There's so many characters. Like just in the first arc, we've got Scarlet, Shipwreck, Gung Ho, Lady J, Cover Girl,
Polly.
Quick Kick, Rock and Roll,
Polly,
of course. I'm forgetting people already. Both Docs. Right, the father Doc and his daughter.
Oh, awesome!
Doc.
Good.
They're both
I
in
thought
it.
the father Doc was dead. Oh, now
No.
he's dead in the Homoverse.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
so.
yeah. Good.
So yeah, I mean, there's a ton of characters, and in comics, it's space. Space is at a premium,
Yeah.
and if I wanted to show the bridge layer,
Listen, his name is Tollbooth. He has a name.
That is pages of. That's pages that I'm not
Can
using
we get
for
a fold
Gung Ho.
out that is the bridge layer folding out?
I'll ask
Can we
my editors.
Please do this. I'm putting the request in now. I want to fold out where it's the bridge layer.
Like one of those really ornate, like pop-up books.
Yeah. Like they did with Promethea.
Yeah.
Like the J.H. Williams
Oh,
Promethea
yeah.
book.
you're
But I
talking
want it to just be the bridge layer. That'll take you from one part of the story to the other.
That is a idea. That is an idea.
I'm not saying it's a
That
good
is
one.
certainly an
but
idea.
it would be amazing. It's the all Tollbooth issue.
Look at him.
Yeah.
Look at poor Jesse.
Yeah,
marching
so
up front.
poor Jesse. So the Cobra's captives, they're still marching, and the Joes are still trying to get this these explosive rocks. They're getting closer and closer. This is a little bit like
The Joes are trying to defend the explosive.
yeah.
rocks.
They're trying to get them to a safe place
Right.
to where if they explode, they won't hurt anyone. This is like that movie. Was it
Smokey and the Bandit.
Well, definitely like Smokey and the Bandit. First of all,
Every
you
movie's
just
kinda
touched
like
on my
Smokey and the
favorite thing in
Bandit,
the
if
world.
you think about it.
We could do a Smokey and the Bandit podcast.
I kind of wish. Yeah.
Oh yeah, my
Regrets.
My
We all got 'em.
my dream was always to do a trip where I fly to Atlanta, rent a Trans Am, and do the Smokey run. Have a friend rent a truck.
Love it.
Blocker,
You can do the Cannonball Run.
Cannibal,
next year.
all of it. Yeah, that's
do every single one.
Yeah. So the Joes, they're breaking. They found the Cobra hideout where the signals are being sent to their family members.
They're getting their tires shot out by these lasers.
Lots of tires getting shot out.
Hey, something else
that's-
exciting that you're going to be excited about the new G.I. Joe ongoing, lasers.
They use lasers?
Everybody's got lasers.
Do they really?
Yeah.
That's great.
Because as I told you earlier, like this is my on last week's episode. This is my GI Joe. Like as much as I love and respect the Hama stuff, like when I think about GI Joe, I think about lasers shooting.
That's
all
awesome.
Over the place.
So here's the question then: in a world where they all shoot lasers, what was sci-fi and the laser? What was sci-fi the laser trooper good for?
I mean that was a question on this show
Yeah,
already. So.
Zap and sci-fi. Like why are you there if
Grand
everyone's
Slam,
shooting
too.
and Grand Slam? Why
There's
are
a
you
lot of
all
laser
shooting
dudes.
lasers? Yeah.
I don't know. I guess they're better at it.
Yeah,
Maybe they
they're
have,
probably
maybe they have higher
They
quality
have special
lasers.
lasers. Yeah. So they've the
I
family
love how
members,
the suit's riding up on them. Did you see that?
Hey, have you ever worn
It's
like a
very
full body
clingy.
jumpsuit?
It's
it
very
never fits
clingy.
well. I've yet to put on a full body jumpsuit that fits right. So
Jesse, get that rock. Solve the problem, little Jesse.
Jesse's going to throw a rock, and he's going to explode this whole shooting match unless Duke can beat up
grim.
a 10-year-old kid.
So first of all, like, this is dark.
It's real dark. They're going to die.
Like, his orphan nephew has been mind controlled and convinced to smash a rock onto explosive things,
we go on a
himself
commercial
and everyone else.
with Jesse about to kill everyone.
He'll fight for freedom wherever there's trouble. G.I. Joe is there. G.I. Joe.
It's Major Blood in the Cobra copter. They're after Gung Ho. Get the G.I. Joe Dragonfly copter. Wild Bill to the rescue. Major Blood, look. Let's get out of here. Cobra's turning tail. Want to lift, good buddy?
G.I. Joe. American hero.
G.I. Joe Dragonfly Copter comes with Wild Bill, other figures and equipment, each sold separately from Hasbro.
Now back to G.I. Joe.
So the question in everyone's mind is Jesse suicidal?
He's mind controlled, man.
Is he so upset about being adopted as he was in the beginning of the
I
episode?
don't think that's it, sir.
I
think he's beloved.
He was upset
by that family.
With Shipwreck had to, he had to console him. I'm not saying it was deserved, but he was upset about
Hanging out on that pier, fishing like you do.
I'm going on what Shipwreck gave us.
Boy of her commands, we're all gonna be blown sky high.
But that snake said if we mess with the machine...
Yeah, it's me, Thunder.
That's a really that's someone they're in the recording studio and they say, listen, we don't have a voice for him. Bill, you're in the room. We need a voice.
I'm
Give me something odd.
I mean, I hope you've read it. If you haven't, you need to fix it tonight. Did you read the oral history that Heat Vision did of this show?
No.
Oh my God, Joe!
No.
It's like the Heat Vision blog.
No, I'm
you know
not familiar with. No, I'm not familiar with that.
So I think it's like Entertainment Weekly, or wait, Hollywood Reporter. I don't know. I'll find it and send it to you. Everybody should just look up oral history
Of
animated G.I.
sure,
Joe.
okay.
And it is a discussion with a bunch of writers and voice actors, and they talk about just that, about how like sometimes you would just be there to read 2 or 3 characters, and they come and be like, "Oh, now you need to do this one." Oh, so now I talk like this for Thunder, or whatever. It was a fascinating thing for me to read, especially working on G.I. Joe, because they talked a lot about how progressive this show was for the time in terms of Scarlet, like the very first episode. I mean, it's a callback to your first episode of the show, I'm sure. Duke is running saying, "No, I'm going to kick your mustard, hot dog." This person who's driving this jet. And it opens up, and it's Scarlet. It's Scarlet. Yep. It's awesome. It's kind of like a low-key, really like progressive feminist thing.
We talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
This show's super progressive. I can think of maybe one episode where one of the women wasn't featured prominently. Mm-hmm. They've got people of all races, except Cobra doesn't have anyone of color.
They talk about that too.
Oh, do they really?
Yeah, that G.I. Joe is it's like a Benetton ad. It's a rainbow, and Cobra, they're homogenous fascists.
Oh, so that was on purpose.
Yeah,
that's great.
It's smart stuff,
yeah,
man.
Yeah.
It's really, really neat. You should everybody should look that up.
Vision.
It's amazing. Yeah,
I'm going to check that out. Absolutely.
Aaron Couch, I believe, wrote it.
I know that. I've read.
He's a big Joe fan. Yeah, I followed him
yeah.
online because I thought it's excellent. It's really, really good.
Oh, that's great.
Hey, taxi!
Where to, man?
The desert! And don't spare the horses!
Check.
So the Joes, they blew up the computer that were controlling their family, and now here come a bunch of helicopters to kind of rescue everybody.
Robot barbecue.
Yeah, but we
I refuse to believe barbecue's not a robot.
We still have the main problem, though. There's these explosive crystals that still need to get taken care of. So they need to hold off these rattlers.
Can I tell you something weird?
Yeah.
So I was looking at
was
that Spirit's
dad? Is running around
dope.
with
a laser gun. I'm gonna solve this problem. That was awesome. Look at this
Footloose
morons
Footloose getting
falling
help,
over a
getting
rock.
help from Barbecue's dad.
I like this. No, so I was reading, just doing research, and I was looking up backstory, some backstory stuff I was looking to find out about like Lady J and the IDW continuity.
Yeah.
And I found like a G.I. Joe wiki.
Slash fiction.
It was almost. It said Lady J, the most voluptuous member of the G.I. Joe team, which I found like so weird, like such a weird. I mean, it's the internet, right? And crowdsourced. I thought it's so weird. What makes it even weirder is watch. She's not especially voluptuous,
but also
on this show. Like she's just a normal looking lady.
This is a team that has CoverGirl.
Oh yeah,
CoverGirl,
exactly.
who
It's
literally
weird
was a
thing.
fashion model.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
It was
I
a very
mean,
strange thing.
you know.
I wish somebody would edit that.
That's so funny.
Somebody get on that, please.
The most voluptuous.
It's very strange. Cody Rhodes eyeballing, mean mugging me over there from behind the comic book Rex.
Getting political, getting voluptuous. Yeah, it's getting crazy. So Cobra's dropping giant claws. Because remember, Cobra would rather have these diamonds to themselves. So they drop giant grapplers, and they're going to steal this Joe vehicle. I have a feeling it's not going to go well.
I'm not talking much because I'm just engrossed in this, in the high stakes action going on here. This is a neat 2-parter. Are all of them in this era this good?
Yes and yes.
Cool.
Yeah, I think the show's great.
Cool. Spirit's dad sending little Jesse with.
I think what sets
I don't know.
this 2-parter apart is the focus on the characters, and you're getting backstories on them, which is really rare. We're actually coming up on another 2-parter, which is just one of my favorite things in the world, called Worlds Without End, which when you see it is going to blow your mind.
Cool.
It's in about 3 weeks,
look
three
at
episodes
that.
away from this.
I'm doing a really bad job narrating.
No.
It's really
so
bomb
the machine,
action going on right
the
now.
Rattler just knocked off one of the grapplers that had the G.I. Joe vehicle, and all those crystals, they're about to fall.
It's falling.
Cobra dropped it from their airship, and this
Scarlet's
there is
8
gonna
brothers
be
are running away.
That is a huge explosion.
massive.
Like, that is like megaton level warhead stuff.
Oh my god, it's reaching up to the.
It really is. Like, look at this.
Helicopters.
This is
Spirit's family hiding in a ditch.
this is nuclear weapon style, like animation.
Oh, poor Barbecue thinks he lost his dad again.
Again, that's twice in 2 episodes. Hey, Dad, where'd you keep going? Oh, Jesse's safe, and I think we're all happy about that.
Are you a big Wild Bill fan?
Wild Bill's the best. Wild Bill shows up.
You
and
might you might not be thrilled with G.I. Joe Revolution, my friend.
Oh, shut your mouth.
Yeah.
He shows up and he saves the day, is what he does.
You know what else? You might not know about Wild Bill.
Spoiler alert.
Dire Wraith.
Oh, he is? Really?
Yeah, so I think this is.
Oh,
this
yeah,
is
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah.
You
It'll
know,
be out by
it's
the
in
time they
past.
get
It's
this.
in the
It'll be
past.
out for 2 weeks.
It also,
Is he really?
Yeah, it's
Oh.
in a preview that went up on AV Club too. Yeah, he's a Dire Wraith.
Oh, no.
Yeah, man.
Well, that explains why he was so much better at his job than every other G.I. Joe.
Hyper competent
because he was a space alien.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, no, I've from watching all these episodes, whenever he shows up, because he's the cavalry, he saves the day.
Yeah,
Like, it's always like someo's in trouble, and then Wild Bill flies in, and the day gets saved, and the
he's
show
there for
wraps up.
exfiltration.
Yeah. He's great. Oh, no. Oh, do they
Dire
say
Wraith.
what happened to the originals, or we just assume they killed him?
You gotta read to find out.
You got to read to
man.
find out?
If there ever were originals. Who knows? Who knows how long they've been?
Oh, wait a minute. Here we go. So the show's wrapping up, and they find out that Gung Ho's
Oh, this is
family
my
was
favorite.
also involved in the list. So Baroness is going to go and get her revenge on Gung Ho's family. Except
There's so many people hanging
cue
out.
the Leonard Skinnerd.
This looks so fun. Which family do you want to hang out with?
This family.
Yeah, me too.
So
Gung-Ho's
Gung Ho's
the
family
right
is just
answer.
sitting around, and they're laughing at her. And
They're a bunch of cartoon
Just-
Cajuns, and they've all got knives. They
Oh,
all have
all
knives.
have knives.
The women have
The
knives
women
shoved
look
into their
tougher
belts.
than the men.
Ugh, the women look.
They instantly kidnap all the Cobra troopers, and they're going to serve her gumbo, and she can't stand it. This is possibly the best ending to an episode I've
Look at
ever
this.
seen. It really is such a great ending.
There's a gator.
There's a gator involved. This is such a great ending to this episode.
None of them are wearing shoes.
Yeah, and the G.I. Joe team shows up too late.
I love that in Gung Ho's family, like Gung Ho is like the fancy one because he wears shoes.
Yeah,
Right?
I bet you do not like gumbo.
Etienne, we've been expecting
Etienne.
you for days.
His mean grandma
Oh,
yelling
that's
at
so
him.
great.
Well, I don't
That's
think
so
Cobra
great.
will mess with this family
Gung Ho's the
again.
best.
I feel like that crocodile.
Baroness almost got eaten by a crocodile.
I feel like he took that crocodile to prom.
That's probably a gator, right? That's
Probably a
an alligator.
gator. Yeah, probably a gator. I don't really know. I know there is a difference. I just don't
Is it
know
a
it.
caiman? do you think?
Something like that. Well, listen, Aubrey Sitterson, thank you so much.
Thank you, friend.
This has been great,
It's
man.
been awesome.
Thoughts on this on the wrap up of this episode?
Great, man. Really funny. And like that's the thing. I mean, I think people sometimes forget about G.I. Joe is that it's not just big action set pieces and crazy sci-fi stuff, which it is, and that's an important part of it, but they're having fun.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, and that's a crucial part of it for me. And it's something we're trying to do moving forward. Is that it's all big set pieces. It's crazy plot. It's lots of action, and it's jokes. And it's it's not a comedy book, but they make jokes, and because people, especially in high stress situations like that.
Yeah.
And especially with think about it, like the GI Joes, they've got to be in like their 20s, like mid 20s.
Yeah, sure.
Probably.
Yeah.
Like, you want them young.
Yeah, probably like Duke and Scarlet are probably 30.
A little bit older.
Yeah.
But like, I mean, so it's young people hanging out, having fun, shooting lasers, hanging out with a Transformer.
Are you doing Duke Scarlet romance or Scarlet Snake Eyes, or what do you? Or is there any? Or is that not even a?
You gotta read and find out. Man.
Okay, I love it. Well, listen, I'm definitely gonna be reading and find out. Any listeners out there, you got to be reading and find out. Let Aubrey know what you think about it at Aubrey Sitterson on Twitter and Facebook. Go read IDW G.I. Joe. Get it from Comixology. Get it from your local comic shop. Just get out and get it. And Street Fighter X G.I. Joe. That's in trade, right?
It's in trade. Absolutely.
Yeah. So that would make an amazing Christmas present because it's a great book.
Also, AubreySitterson.com. Find that Straight Shoot and that Scald podcast
Straight Shoot
we were
and
talking
Scald.
about earlier.
I'm going to listen to Scald and
You're gonna thrill to it.
I'm going to love it. I'm
It's
going to
very
thrill
weird.
to Scald. It's going to be great.
It's very mean and weird and nihilistic.
Dynamite.
Love it.
It's
great.
just great. All right, Aubrey Sitterson, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And remember, everybody, thanks for listening. And now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.
Oh, Joe!